Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. The screenshot I shared in the beginning is a quite sad story that I mentioned earlier in some past videos, and I wanted to make sure I actually shared the article. And a woman baked her baby, essentially, put her baby in the oven. She contends she thought it was a bed. I think any sane person knows that's not the case. She did it intentionally. And there's two factors that are pretty much missing from the story: is was she on drugs, and was she in a state of postpartum psychosis? All right, highlighting mental health. So for two examples, we see that when liberals say legalize, tax, and regulate all drugs, and that it should be allowed because no one will harm themselves, you should be free to do whatever you want with your body, this clearly puts children at risk. All right? So, drugs are only evil. And if a woman is on drugs and she has poor coping skills and the drugs make her irritable, she can harm the child. If she had been sober, she may not have done that. And so this is more evidence against the liberal perspective and the libertarian perspective that we should just allow endless drugs in society and that it will have zero negative consequences. Okay. And the second point is the discussion of mental health and the mental fortitude one needs when starting a family, and how the sexual revolution, promiscuity culture encourages women to abort their kids and makes intimacy seem like it's risk-free. Alright, so we want women to make better choices when it comes to men, and to treat their babies well, and to not get abortions, and to stay sober. Islam calls women to stay sober because it doesn't allow intoxicants. Islam tells women to not kill their children out of fear, out of poverty. Alright? And Islam discourages promiscuity. And if Sharia law was established, from my understanding, it would be capital punishment for adultery. So that's how serious adultery and fornication are in Islam. And so these make society better. Whereas the liberal, atheist, and progressive agenda, as well as libertarian, really allow evil to facilitate its will more often. Now, all evil happens by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are to be tested, and we can see signs of evil clearly when we open our eyes and look at our surroundings and see what kind of planet we live on and the behaviors that manifest themselves around us. And so this sad case is a good moment for you to talk to your sons about how they can support their wife during such difficult times, and how they can look for warning signs of debilitation. And you can talk to your daughters about how they need to make sure they pick the right man to be intimate with, because his lack of help and the stress from motherhood can break some. And also, if men stopped getting wicked women pregnant, a lot of children would not have to suffer. Okay? And some women are unfit to be moms, and so if they want to get sterilized, this prevents abortion and prevents children from growing up in broken homes. Okay? So some people should just have animals as companions if they can treat them well and not have human beings. And we have a lot of single mothers in America, 13 million and growing, and with the red pill and the radical feminists at each other's throats, we are not really getting excellent examples of how do you keep a marriage together and how do you deal with the stress of family. Now, it's a little difficult with the prophets because we don't get a lot of details into their lives. we do see a lot from Yusuf's story with his siblings, but the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't have children with Aisha. He only had children with Khadija and the Coptic, Mary the Coptic, wasn't it? But the other wives, they didn't give children. So we don't have their stories on how they navigated much of the stress of mental health. That's not really something discussed in Islam. And so, with Muslim women being more indoors and isolated, we have to make sure we are consistently pumping out content that helps the Muslim woman feel that she is worth something, that she has value, and to find ways to entertain her mind and to have hobbies and to know what to do in times of deep mental distress. Now, this can be quite confusing because Muslims will praise someone like Aaron Bushnell, who lights himself on fire because he's mentally unfit and very weak and unstable, and this then encourages people to self-harm. When women want to self-harm, it is very bad, and encouraging self-harm doesn't end well for the families or for anyone involved whatsoever. And so when women are suffering with postpartum depression, they often have harsh thoughts towards themselves, that they would be better off not being around, and they'd have more value not being around. And so they could harm their child and harm themselves. So it's very dangerous territory when Muslims in any capacity whatsoever call suicide a sacrifice. Because sacrifices are acts of worship, and suicide is not an act of worship accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should never respect suicidal human sacrifices, because death by fire and burnt offerings are not accepted in Islam. And when it comes to women's mental health, especially during such a testing time, we have to be pillars for them and create content for them. Now, I don't know very many sisters online who are doing that, and I never have heard any Muslim brother talk about what new moms go through when they have a baby. So they tell us women shouldn't speak up, they shouldn't have online accounts, and then they never talk about what women actually suffer with. It's all about, what do women want in a marriage? Which is good, but you can talk all day about what you want, but the reality is, what's going to happen when you become a mom? Okay? And a lot of these brothers may see a sister who she's beautiful, but you don't know how she's going to react to that type of mental health dilemma. And that is more of a threat to the child and to herself than rather she's going to divorce you or something strange. So if a man is going to be polygamous, he's also going to have to know how to support his other wives while one of his wives is going through a hard time, and the third, fourth, and second wife are going to feel more isolated and they won't have him around 24 hours, right? 12 hours to help with the baby, the newborn. So men, instead of talking about no strings nikah and secret wives, they should instead, I'd argue, talk about how do you support your second, third, and fourth wife when they're going through postpartum depression. If you have 4 wives, each one gives you 3 kids, okay? That's a lot of those women wondering if you're going to be there for them in the role of a man. And not all of them will have perfect families that fall from the sky and will support her mentally, okay? So it's very essential that we tell young men that when you get married, you want to have wives. It's not just about making babies you can't take care of. It's not just about your phallus worship, okay? It's about you being a proper husband and a proper role model for your sons. And if your wife is having mental breakdowns and self-harming, that's going to be a huge problem for you in your life. And some women hide it better than others. And if she can't come to you for aid, and you unfortunately discover her in the bed, lifeless, and the baby is in a full diaper, and you're calling 911 because she harmed herself because of her mental psychosis from the pressure of motherhood and sleep deprivation and not having emotional needs met and not being supported and feeling trapped, we're going to have a problem. And now the child is an orphan. And then if a man has that many wives, one of the wives offs herself, and now he got these orphans. One of the another wives is going to have to take those kids in and take care of them. So you can see how all the dilemmas can become manifold, and how having real conversations is important. And so that's something that I always consistently try to do. And so this mother who did that to her baby is a lesson. It's a lesson for us to say we need to make sure more women are mentally supported. And people wonder why birth rates are going down. It's also not just because of poverty, but it's the fact that women are deeply, deeply suffering. Yes, we have washing machines, Wi-Fi, but there's more broken families. Okay, so if a woman has to work, last night she was all tired, sleep deprived, she's gonna run ragged for quite some time and resent motherhood and not want to do another round of that. She's also gonna be less attracted to her husband because now she sees him as someone who can't provide, and she's got to do all this stuff and take care of a kid and be the main parent. And her husband will start to feel like a roommate. Then there's women who their husbands are always gone because they're working, which is fine, mashallah, but she's alone. And when she tries to open up to him about her feelings, he's not reciprocating her, and he's not trying to fortify her spiritually to where she can handle and cope with the loneliness while the postpartum depression is on her, and just motherhood blues in general. And taking the kids out to go to the masjid to meet with sisters is quite a lot of work. And if women are not supposed to travel without a male guardian, the husband's at work, she literally, by Islamic standards, she can't really go out, can she, with the kids? Right? So you have to look at all the stops Islam puts on women, and then see how so many people don't even have Muslim family members or Muslim community. And even within the Muslim community, there's still a cultural gap, language gaps, and just personality gaps as well. And that a woman has to mind herself with focusing on patience, gracious patience and mercy, and coping mechanisms. I've spoken a lot about it. I have live streams, I have a motherhood playlist. Just go through and check the vlog playlists. I practice what I preach. I say things that I've actually done in terms of like solutions and whatnot. And you can use those ideas to discover your own and discover what others have said. But we want horrors like women harming their babies to end. And evil is real, and you don't know when the whispers of shaitan are going to utterly ruin the person you love. Right? Women are given a great trial by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They suffer greatly with pregnancy, with postpartum, and nursing, and still trying to be intimate with their husbands and take care of the kids and mind their own health. They suffer quite deeply for a long time per each child. And they lose their beauty. They have permanent scars from pregnancy and childbirth. And this is a tense thing for them. And some women, they don't understand the new them. You grow and change with each child in a way that can't be comprehended until you actually go through it. And so If you see a woman struggling, reach out. And I hope that more Muslim sisters focus on creating a lot of healthy motivations for women. There's tons of ideas out there, and they're greatly needed. And so, that's what I wanted to say for this video. If you'd like to join my blog and support the channel, and help me fundraise to get a book holder and a wooden privacy wall panel thing, you can do so via the blog, which is www.subscribestar.com/MilahanArchive. Hope to see you there.